album together called Like Father, Like Son. You know, the house was built on Man and Fresh, you know.
He called him Dad. He trusted him with his life, his music, and his empire. But what if the same man who raised Lil Wayne in hip-hop was also the one who nearly tore it all down?
Coming soon. Carter 5 coming soon. Cash Money.
For years, Wayne kept the truth locked away. But when he finally spoke up about what really went down with Birdman, the entire rap game froze in disbelief. Imagine New Orleans in the early 1990s, a city bursting with bounce music, block parties, and a gritty sound that echoed from every street corner. This wasn't polished like New York or cinematic like LA. This was raw, fast, and straight from the pavement. In the middle of it all stood a skinny, wide-eyed kid with a notebook, Dwayne Michael Carter Jr. Before the world knew him as Lil Wayne, he was just a boy scribbling bars, trying to turn his pain into poetry. Growing up in Hollygrove, one of the city's toughest neighborhoods, Wayne found his escape in music. By the time he was 9, he was already recording with Cash Money artists. Hip-hop wasn't a fantasy for him, it was his lifeline out of a harsh reality. At 11 years old, Destiny introduced him to Brian Birdman Williams. Birdman, a sharp street hustler with massive ambitions, was building Cash Money Records alongside his brother Slim. When he met Wayne, he didn't just see another young rapper. He saw potential. He saw a future star. And for Wayne, who had been abandoned by his biological father as a toddler, Birdman filled that void. He gave him more than a record deal. He gave him food, a roof, and a studio where he could pour his soul into the mic. To young Wayne, Birdman became Pops. And it wasn't just for show. Birdman told MTV, "I look at Wayne as my son. I raised him, he's family." Wayne returned that love publicly, calling him the only father I've ever known. Their relationship blurred the line between family and business in a way hip-hop had rarely seen. Together, they built something legendary. With Juvenile, BG, Turk, and Wayne, Birdman formed the Hot Boys, a crew that dragged Southern rap into the national spotlight. Tracks like Bling Bling and Back That Ass Up weren't just hits, they were cultural shifts. And at the core of it all was the bond between Birdman and Wayne, father and son, mentor and protege, redefining loyalty in a cutthroat industry. Cash Money wasn't just a label to Wayne, it was home. Birdman wasn't just a CEO, he was blood in every way that mattered to him. By the early 2000s, Wayne had evolved from the youngest hot boy to the heartbeat of Cash Money. Albums like The Block is Hot, 500 Degrees, and The Carter proved he was no ordinary artist. He was sharpening into a lyrical beast. Birdman was never far from his side. They were everywhere together. Music videos, interviews, public appearances, even sharing that infamous On the Lips kiss that shocked outsiders. But Wayne brushed it off completely. "That's my pops," he explained. "If you don't understand it, then you don't understand love." To him, this was deeper than publicity. It was loyalty, pure and simple. While other labels were crumbling in the mid-2000s, Cash Money stayed afloat because Wayne carried it on his back. His legendary mixtape run, Dedication, The Drought, No Ceilings, changed the game. Then came his crowning moment, The Carter 3. Over 1 million copies sold in its first week. Grammy wins, global domination. Wayne wasn't just the face of Cash Money, he was the face of hip-hop itself. And through every speech, every award, every achievement, he never forgot to thank Birdman. From the outside, it looked unbreakable, a dynasty written in stone, father and son, against the world. But beneath the surface, cracks were quietly forming. The seeds of betrayal had already been planted, quietly, slowly, like cracks forming under the surface of a perfect statue. By the early 2000s, Lil Wayne wasn't just part of the game, he was the heartbeat of it. After dropping The Carter 3 in 2008, selling over 1 million copies in just 1 week, and gifting the world timeless anthems like Lollipop, A Milli, and Got Money, Wayne didn't just dominate, he shifted the entire culture. He proved he could rule the charts without losing his street edge. And on top of that, he wasn't just making hits anymore, he was building an empire. Wayne's Young Money imprint was a force to be reckoned with. He introduced Drake, who would go on to rewrite streaming history, and Nicki Minaj, who broke barriers and became a global icon in her own right. At that point, everything Wayne touched turned to gold. To the outside world, he was untouchable. The hardest working lyricist alive, the king of mixtapes turned king of mainstream rap. But behind closed doors, things weren't adding up. Wayne had been quietly pouring everything into his most anticipated project ever, The Carter 5. He called it his masterpiece, the album fans had been begging for. He teased it relentlessly. Snippets, release dates, even live performances of unreleased tracks. For fans, it was like watching a painter work on a masterpiece destined to hang in the Louvre. Everyone was waiting for the reveal, but it never came. Year after year, the Carter 5 kept getting delayed. A release date would appear only to be pushed back again. Months turned to years. Fans grew restless, speculating. Some thought Wayne was being a perfectionist. Others whispered about internal label issues. Nobody expected the real reason. Then December 2014 hit, and everything changed. Wayne took to Twitter, breaking his silence in a rare, raw statement that shook the internet. To all my fans, I want you to know that my album won't and hasn't been released because Baby refused to release it. This is not my fault. I am truly and deeply sorry to all my fans. But unfortunately, that's the situation. That single tweet was an earthquake. For years, Wayne had stood by Birdman like a loyal son, defending him from critics, brushing off whispers of tension, calling him Pops in public. Their bond was seen as hip-hop's ultimate father-son story. But now, Wayne himself was saying what everyone had suspected. The relationship had cracked. And this wasn't just about business. It was personal. If Birdman was truly the father figure Wayne said he was, why would he hold his son's music hostage? Why keep the world from hearing the album Wayne had poured his soul into? The betrayal hit deep. Then Wayne took it further. He didn't just tweet, he went to court. He filed a massive $51 million lawsuit against Birdman and Cash Money Records. He accused them of withholding money he was owed, breaching contracts, and deliberately blocking the release of the Carter 5. Suddenly, one of the most iconic partnerships in rap history turned into a brutal, very public legal war. For fans, it felt like watching a family implode. The son had turned against the father. The same man who once gave Wayne a home, a studio, and a future was now being accused of chaining him down. All those tiny cracks that had been ignored for years were now gaping wounds in full view of the world. And at the heart of it all, money and control. Birdman, as the head of Cash Money, held the keys to everything: the contracts, the masters, the royalties, and the release schedule. Wayne claimed that despite generating hundreds of millions for the label, he wasn't getting paid what he was owed. Advances vanished without explanation. Royalty payments were delayed or miscalculated, and the Carter 5, the album his fans had waited years for, was being used as leverage against him. The fairy tale that once defined loyalty in hip-hop had finally unraveled. Wayne's fight wasn't just about music anymore. It was about trust, legacy, and power. And for the first time, the world saw just how deep the betrayal ran. For Wayne, this wasn't just about money. This was personal. A deep wound cut by the man he once called Pops. Birdman wasn't just a label head to him, he was family. The one who raised him in the game, kissed his forehead in public, and spoke about him like a son. And yet now, Wayne was claiming that this same man had locked him in, musically, financially, and emotionally. In one interview, Wayne dropped a line that hit the culture like a thunderclap. "I'm a prisoner, and so is my creativity. Cash Money is the jailer." That single sentence flipped the narrative. Fans rallied behind him instantly. Hashtags like #FreeWayne and #LetCarter5Drop flooded timelines. Memes spread like wildfire. Birdman photoshopped on thrones of cash with captions like, "Pay that man." What started as industry rumors turned into a full-blown cultural moment. This wasn't just about delayed music anymore. It was about loyalty, trust, and how love can curdle into control when power and money enter the equation. The fallout was seismic. For years, fans had seen Wayne as untouchable, the crown jewel of Cash Money, the man who turned a local label into a global empire. To hear him publicly accuse his father figure of betrayal was like watching a dynasty crumble in real time. Everyone had something to say, and even other rappers couldn't stay silent. Rick Ross, both a friend to Wayne and longtime Birdman rival, dropped the bombshell track "Idols Become Rivals." In it, he painted Birdman as a manipulator who built his empire on unpaid labor, delivering the gut punch line: "You would give us self-esteem and motivate our drive, but was in our pockets by the time we count to 5. It wasn't just a diss track, it was a statement. Ross stood beside Wayne publicly, telling the world he wasn't alone in this fight. Meanwhile, Young Money's family dynamics grew tense. Drake, who owed much of his career to Wayne, stayed quiet publicly. He didn't diss Birdman, but his loyalty spoke through actions. Every award speech, every major moment, he made sure to thank Wayne directly. Fans read between the lines. He knew where his foundation came from. Nicki Minaj showed her support more subtly, making it clear in interviews and speeches that Wayne was her mentor, her brother, her rock. The family tree that once seemed unbreakable now looked fractured, with fans debating endlessly about where loyalties truly lay. Would Drake and Nicki pick a side if things escalated further? Would Birdman fight back? Was this the beginning of the end for Cash Money? It all played out like a high-stakes soap opera. Except instead of TV drama, the stakes were tens of millions of dollars, priceless masters, and the legacy of one of the greatest rappers to ever touch a mic. The legal wars stretched on from 2015 to 2018, dragging like a storm that refused to clear. Every few months, headlines teased settlement rumors, new filings, whispers that the Carter 5 might finally see daylight. But nothing concrete ever came. The album became more than music. It became a symbol of Wayne's independence and the fight for his legacy. Fans didn't just want new songs. They wanted to see him break free. Then, unexpectedly, came a moment no one saw coming. During Little Louisiana Fest in 2018, Wayne's annual New Orleans celebration, Birdman appeared on stage. The crowd froze. These two hadn't shared a stage in years. Was this a PR stunt, a temporary ceasefire, or something real? Wayne stood silently as Birdman walked over and pulled him into an embrace. It only lasted seconds, but the weight behind it was undeniable. Then Birdman took the mic and said words that no one expected to hear. "I knew this day was gonna come, but I ain't know when. And I wanted to apologize to my son." The arena exploded. Some screamed, some cried, others just stared, trying to process what they were witnessing. After years of legal battles, silence, and betrayal, Birdman was publicly apologizing on Wayne's turf, in New Orleans, in front of thousands. It wasn't corporate, it wasn't scripted. It felt like raw family business spilling out in real time. Not everyone believed it though. Critics called it a strategic PR move, a clean slate for Birdman so the Carter 5 could drop without legal clouds overhead. Others believed it was genuine, proof that no matter how messy or painful their history was, the bond between Wayne and Birdman was too deep to sever completely. Their story had always been layered: love, betrayal, pain, loyalty, and forgiveness twisted together. Wayne's response wasn't loud. He didn't give a long speech, but allowing Birdman to share that stage was its own powerful statement. And a few months later, on September 28th, 2018, the impossible finally happened. Lil Wayne released the Carter 5. This wasn't just another album drop. It was the end of one of hip-hop's longest and most dramatic battles. After years of silence, legal fights, broken promises, and cryptic tweets, the Carter 5 landed like a cultural earthquake. Fans had waited so long that the album had become almost mythical. Its release felt less like a marketing event and more like liberation. And Wayne didn't just return, he came swinging. The album delivered everything fans had hoped for: sharp wordplay, inventive flows, and that raw, unfiltered Wheezy energy that once crowned him the best rapper alive. Uproar turned into an instant anthem, with its infectious beat and dance craze taking over the internet. Mona Lisa, featuring Kendrick Lamar, became a storytelling showdown, proving Wayne could still go bar for bar with the best. Let It Fly, with Travis Scott, bridged generations, linking his legacy to the new wave he helped create. But beyond the bangers, the heart of the Carter 5 was in its message. From the very first track, Wayne reminded everyone what was at stake: not just music, but freedom, identity, and legacy. This wasn't just the return of an artist. It was the triumph of a man who had been caged, fought for his independence, and finally reclaimed his crown. I Love You, Dwayne opened the Carter 5 with a moment so intimate, it stopped listeners in their tracks. A voicemail from Wayne's mother played, blessing him, encouraging him, grounding the entire project in something far deeper than just beats and bars. This wasn't a standard album intro. It was a statement. It was a document of survival, proof that despite betrayal, endless legal battles, and years of silence, Wayne's voice could never be caged. When the Carter 5 finally dropped, the reaction was electric. Social media lit up within minutes with Carter 5 trending worldwide. Fans, both the day ones and the new generation, celebrated like a lost legend had returned home. For many, it felt like a missing piece of hip-hop had been restored. But beneath the euphoria, there was an undeniable shadow. Wayne had stood on stage and publicly forgiven Birdman, but scars like those don't fade overnight. Fans hadn't forgotten the betrayal, the endless delays, or how dangerously close the album came to disappearing forever. That mix of celebration and unresolved pain gave the project a weight few modern albums carry. The Carter 5 wasn't just music, it was victory pressed onto wax. It was liberation. Step back and look at the Wayne Birdman saga, and you see more than a messy label dispute. You see a parable about power, loyalty, betrayal, and survival in one of the toughest industries on earth. Birdman wasn't just some CEO, he was Pops. the man who stepped in when Wayne's real father wasn't there. He gave him a home, food, studio access, and the mentorship a kid from Hollygrove desperately needed. Together, they built something monumental, brick by brick, turning a small New Orleans label into a hip-hop empire. Their story wasn't just about music, it helped cement Southern rap at the center of the culture. But then came the fracture. Wayne finally admitted what Birdman had done, blocking the release of his album, withholding millions in royalties, and using contracts to keep him boxed in. The warm father-son image fans held on to shattered in an instant. Suddenly, this wasn't about family anymore. It was about control. Birdman had become the gatekeeper to Wayne's freedom. He held the purse strings and the vault where the Carter Five sat locked away. Birdman's role in this story has remained hotly debated. Some call him a visionary, the man who took a gamble on a 9-year-old rapper and helped mold him into a global icon. They argue that without Birdman, the world might never have known Lil Wayne in the same way. Others see him as the villain, the mogul who manipulated loyalty, bled Wayne's trust for profit, and nearly strangled one of hip-hop's greatest careers. The truth, as always, lives somewhere between those extremes. Birdman was both architect and oppressor, mentor and manipulator. And that duality is exactly what makes this saga sting so deeply. But towering over all of it, the lawsuits, the betrayal, the delays, is Wayne's resilience. Despite years of frustration and a $51 million legal battle, he didn't fold. He fought back. He took control of his art, reconnected with his fans, and delivered the Carter Five like a victory lap. It wasn't just an album release. It was artistic redemption and personal emancipation rolled into one. Wayne's fight became bigger than him. It became symbolic. His struggle highlighted how critical ownership is in a business that has historically chewed artists up and spat them out. His story resonated across the industry, from young artists hustling for their first deal to veterans fighting for their masters. He showed that your art and your freedom are worth the blood, the sweat, and even years of legal warfare. That's the real legacy of this saga. Wayne rose above betrayal, above corporate strangleholds, above broken trust, and reminded the world that his genius could never be owned by anyone but him. His story became a lesson not just for hip-hop, but for anyone navigating that blurred line between family and business, loyalty and leverage. So when Wayne finally told the truth about Birdman, it wasn't just gossip. It wasn't another beef headline. It was closure, the moment he set himself free. His honesty turned his scars into a crown, his resilience into legend. This wasn't the downfall of a dynasty, it was the rebirth of an artist. Because in the end, Wayne proved the one thing Birdman could never take: greatness. The saga between Lil Wayne and Birdman isn't just a rap story. It's a story of love and betrayal, power and redemption. It's about how the same man who raises you can also be the one to hold you down. And in Wayne's own words, "I just want to be free. That's all I ever wanted." Freedom, in the end, was worth more than money, more than contracts, more than loyalty itself. And Wayne earned it.